Good morning, you're watching Business World Live. I'm Danie Laurel. It's the start of a new trading week, but first let's kick off with our banner story. The proposed Bayanihan III measure may not see the light of day. NEDA Acting Secretary Carl Kendrick Chua said there is no need for Congress to pass a third stimulus package when other measures meant to boost economic recovery have yet to be fully implemented. Chua said the government has not yet spent Bayanihan II as well as the stimulus components of the Create Bill and the Financial Institution Strategic Transfer or FIST law. Chua also said there is no need for another stimulus package if the country's lockdown is further eased. He said reopening the economy is the most efficient way to boost consumer confidence. House Speaker Lord Alan Velasco had earlier said the House is prepared to pass Bayanihan III or the Bayanihan to Arise as one act. This proposal earmarks at least 420 billion pesos for cash handouts, wage subsidies, and assistance to hard-hit sectors. However, the validity of Bayanihan to Recover as One Act or Bayanihan II was extended until end of 2021 due to delays in disbursement. Okay, happy Monday, traders and investors. Let's kick off with a quick check on Wall Street overnight. You can see on my terminal here, U.S. stocks finishing mostly lower on Friday last week. All eyes this week are on a U.S. stimulus package, hopefully to be passed. It's around $1.9 trillion that's heading for a House vote. Meanwhile, you've also got the Biden administration possibly unveiling a multi-trillion-dollar recovery package in March. You can see how stocks here also in Europe last Friday closed, however, in the green. Let's take a quick peek at Asia and how that is opening. I was checking that earlier this morning. It seemed to be a muted start with some reversals there. You can actually see Japan opening strongly this morning. The Nikkei 225 up by 1 4/10%. So quite an exciting moment, even as it had been quite muted this morning. Nevertheless, you've got another one to be watching out for here, Bitcoin. That notched up another record high on Sunday. That was at $58,000 after reaching more than $1 trillion worth of market value for the first time. And there's a lot of things to be watching out for here when it comes to the vaccine front. Some good news here. Pfizer and BioNTech's vaccine appeared to stop the vast majority of recipients over in Israel from infection. And the latest study showing that this vaccine reduces transmission by 89%. This, of course, comes as the United States nears 500,000 COVID-19 linked deaths in England is set to reopen schools. Now, on the home front, let's take a quick peek at how we are opening. Stocks are actually expected to climb this week, according to some analysts, although we do see us opening on the back foot, sliding below 6,900 early in trade. That's down by 0.6% in the first 4 minutes. The market is anticipating possible announcements this week regarding the easing of quarantine restrictions and also an update on what's going on with that vaccine saga, particularly that vaccine indemnification fund, which is still up for the signatures over at the Senate. Now, recall that last week we had gone below 7,000. Even as the average turnover actually increased by 22%. So we were at 15 billion pesos of trades on average daily. So quite a heavy showing, but nevertheless not enough to prop up our boards. Let's take a quick peek at the sectors to be watching out for this morning and whether there's a particular sector that's dragging down the index. You can see that quite clearly, holding firms down by 1 2/10% this morning. And just a quick peek at which stocks are particularly dragging that down. Ayala Corporation seems to be the culprit here, together with BDO as well, and SM Investments. Ayala down by 2.5%. Now, speaking of conglomerates, I did want to talk about San Miguel. They did mention that at least their infrastructure projects are set to be continuing, particularly the MRT 7 rail is halfway done. That's going to be opening on December 2022. two. They did mention that also 6 trains from Hyundai Rotem will be tested in South Korea in April and will be arriving in the Philippines if they pass. Take a quick peek at San Miguel this morning, and whether that news is actually keeping them propped up. It does seem to make them neutral, at least for the time being, not moving this morning. Another one that we need to be watching out for this morning is Meralco. Meralco, unfortunately for them, but possibly fortunate for consumers, has now been tasked or ordered to refund 13.9 billion pesos to customers. This is from the Energy Regulatory Commission. And this is going to be happening in the next 24 months. Nevertheless, Meralco brushing off that action. It's up by 0.4% this morning. It is during periods of uncertainty where the usual ways of doing things are questioned. Sustainability goals may have been at the back burner at the height of a global pandemic, but ATRAM says these will remain front and center. Here to talk about their new sustainability fund, we have with us Phillip Hagedorn, CIO of ATRAM. Good morning, Phillip, and welcome to the broadcast.
Good morning, Danie. Thank you for having me today.
Phillip, finally, I'm very excited about this, a sustainability fund in the Philippines. We never thought we'd get to this point, and here we are in the middle of a pandemic, finally pushing for sustainability issues and investing. Why now? What are you betting on, and is there retail investor appetite?
Well, again, thanks for having us today. And, I think, we've been thinking about this for a while. We've been, we're managing many different types of equity funds and strategies in the Philippines, but never looking at it through this lens, this sustainability lens that we're looking at it today. And I think, last year and the pandemic that we've gone through made us take a step back and think about the reset, the great reset we're going to have. And companies have a chance to forge a new path. And as of last year, there's a requirement now to report sustainability in your annuals. So this is our chance to be able to monitor that, to build a framework, to score companies, and then to allocate capital to those that we feel are doing good things. Mm-hmm. I think that's the bottom line.
Okay, so something that you've been looking at for quite a while now, this period, simply accelerating that push. Tell us more details about this. What fund size are you targeting? What kind of assets? Will this just be equities for the time being? Yeah. And will they be, the big blue chips or the smaller caps?
Well, the fund we launched is an equity fund, the first one we launched. So effectively buying shares of companies, becoming shareholders in these companies. That's the idea, right? We want to become shareholders of companies that, I don't want to, it's an overused term, profit with purpose, but the purpose really is the profit, number one. We're not doing charity here. We're not doing CSR, and we're not just donating. The idea is to invest in companies that are growing their bottom line, growing earnings, adding shareholder value, but doing it in a responsible way and looking at three main pillars that we look at. When you look at the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, we can almost classify them into three different areas. The area of wellness, where you look at the individual, health, your education, etc. The area of progress, which is around cities, around where we live and our environment, and making sure that we take care of that. And finally, the area of fairness, where we look after everybody, no man left behind. And of course, gender equality and other facts like this. And I think you can almost build a lens to look at the 17 SDGs with these three pillars in mind, and then we can see how companies do. And there's no failing grade, there's no passing grade, Danie. This is not a school test, It's basically to inform us and to inform shareholders of where these companies are in the journey. Are they unaware? Or are they already adapting? Or somewhere in the middle?
Okay.
That's
So taking into
that's what we're
consideration all of these risks as more information, basically for fund investors, Philip, are there enough firms, so to speak, that are doing the right thing at this point in time, wherein you can create a fund that's really dedicated to that? I mean, we note that Moody's had a report last week flagging the fact that companies are still not at par with their ASEAN neighbors when it comes to social risks, environmental
oh,
risks.
absolutely we're in early days, no, absolutely, and but I think that we've seen improvement. I'll hold back on significant, but we've seen moving forward and we've seen improvement. Um, Especially on the initial screen is ESG, right? You want to look at how companies are, and particularly the G. That's the governance side, which I think Philippine companies have really stepped up. I mean, transparency, sharing of information, being regular about that. I think governance issues have been much better addressed. Environmental and social are following, but SDGs is a different lens as well, no? And um, what's going to be impossible is for a company to score perfect. There's no way, because you can't expect that a company is going to be wholeheartedly supporting every single SDG. So the way our data shows, and we've scored, I think, some close to 50 companies already, is that most companies are in a beginning stages. They're doing things. Um, Very few are completely unaware, although there are a handful.
Okay, let's talk about the performance debate. I mean, there's an age-old debate of whether investing in such stocks, ties your hands from the benefits that you get from, stocks that have performed actually quite well during the pandemic, so-called sin stocks. To what extent can you actually say that the performance of this fund will be at par with a normal, traditional, well-diversified fund without such stringent criteria?
Well, we have, let's look at it from two angles. One angle is just testing, back testing, see how this type of a portfolio or performance would have performed, and the back tests are very promising. I can tell you that. When you look at how ESG and SRI, sustainable responsible investing funds, have performed, particularly in Asia, we're seeing more than half of them outperform indices. Um, so, and if the underperformance versus indices are there, it's not significant. Um, so, I think you can expect equity type returns, but on the kind of theory side of things, these companies should perform better if they're doing things more responsibly and people see that and allocate assets to them. The problem is many investors don't look at that lens. The only lens that significant amount of investors have been looking at right now is pure size. Let's invest in the index. Those are the biggest, and that's okay. And honestly, it is okay. But investors should look at other ways of investing, and this is another approach.
And of course, it depends on the length of time that you're looking at as well. Philip, finally, how to subscribe? When is your target launch date and minimum size to invest?
Well, the fund is available today already, so you can subscribe today. It's if you go to our website atram.com.ph, there's a link that'll take you straight to our platform, which is called Seedbox, and you'll be able to subscribe to the fund. My guess is if you spend 30 minutes looking at the site, filling up the forms, and understanding, reading up a little bit, within less than an hour, you're invested in the fund. And by the way, when you open the account, you have access to all of our funds, not just the sustainability fund.
All right, so exciting times. Do go to their website to have a look and have more information on that. Thank you so much, Phillip Hagedorn, CIO of ATRAM.
Thank you for having me, Danie. Have a good day today.
Here are other headlines for keeping our eyes on. A state think tank says LGUs should consider imposing taxes on video streaming platforms in light of the continued closure of cinemas, theaters, and concert venues. The National Tax Research Center said the closure of amusement centers has resulted in nearly 470 million pesos in foregone revenues last year. Now, to boost local collections, the group says LGUs may expand the coverage of amusement taxes to include virtual streaming sites. The NTRC says Congress may review and amend the local government code to expand the definition of amusement activities to raise more revenues. At present, LGUs can only impose amusement taxes of up to 10% on physical places of amusement, including concert halls, circuses, boxing stadiums, cinemas, and theaters. The Budget Department reports that cash utilization by government agencies has dropped to 72% in January. This is 2 percentage points lower compared to the recorded figure in the same month of last year. LGUs and state-owned companies used only almost 161 billion pesos out of the over 224 billion pesos in notices of cash allocations released last month. This meant that about 136 billion pesos of NCAs remained unused by the end of January. Despite the overall decrease, the National Defense and Transport Departments reported an increase in cash utilization last month. This after they used up 89% and 87% of their NCAs respectively. Meanwhile, the DBM reported that it has released almost 60% or 2.6 trillion pesos out of the 4.5 trillion peso budget for 2021 as of January. This means that there is about 1.9 trillion pesos left to disburse over the remaining 11 months of the year. And the Energy Department has designated the National Transmission Corporation, or TRANSCO, as the operator of the off-grid power systems with 2 or more suppliers. Meanwhile, off-grid systems with single suppliers shall remain under the watch of their respective franchise distribution utilities. NAPOCOR has also been directed to help implement that order by providing relevant data on transmission facilities and allowing TRANSCO to access their systems. Now, over the weekend, TRANSCO said it has the technical capability to fulfill its new job as system operator properly. The group added that it has been gearing up for the assignment since last year. And that's a first look into the business day. Today is Monday, February 22, 2021. Catch Business World live for the market close. It's at 3:15 p.m. today. I'm Danie Laurel, and we are One News.